Success is calling, don't ignore. Take control, unlock the door. Dreams ain't distant, they're right in sight. Sam will help you get it right. He's got the roadmap, got the plan. Helping you take a stand, financial peace, a future bright. Sam Knickerbocker shows the light. Call 385-323-2493. Change your life, now's the time. Build your wealth, make it strong. Leave a legacy that lasts long. He's got the keys, no need to wait. Financial freedom. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy Show. I'm your host, Sam Knickerbocker, and we have an amazing guest, Sally Gimmon, here on the show. And we just met recently at a conference. And honestly, when she walked in, she's just a ball of energy. You can't miss her. Super big smiles, and absolutely happy to be in anybody's presence. When I first met her, I didn't realize she had lived so much of her life in Arizona, because she doesn't live here currently anymore. But man, she's wearing this big, bold shirt, like save on taxes, stop paying taxes, stop wasting your money. And then not just the shirt, I mean, the shirt stands out, but then her whole message when she actually got to speak at the conference and share really what she's doing, how she's accomplishing it. It's something that's really close to my heart as far as I want people to know this information. It's kind of kept secret. I don't know if I'd say intentionally, maybe intentionally, but definitely not everybody knows about it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But I'm not the expert in it. I'm just here to ask really fun questions. But before we get into that, Sally, how did you tell us a little bit about your backstory? How did you end up in Arizona to begin with? And then why did you ultimately leave Arizona?
Great question. I was actually born at St. Joe's Hospital. My dad was a pharmacist in the public health service, specializing in Indian health. So as kids, we used to travel with a pop-up trailer to different Indian reservations for 2 weeks while the pharmacist went on vacation. He went back to graduate school in Pittsburgh, so that's why I left when I was 5 years old. In Phoenix, I don't know if it's all Arizona, they have a kindergarten. Pittsburgh, they didn't, so I went to a Head Start program. My mom and dad ended up retiring in Phoenix, actually retiring in Goodyear. Wow, 2007, 2010. They were one of the first 100 houses out in Robeson community. I was working in Massachusetts. I got laid off the Tuesday of Thanksgiving weekend. I had a plane ticket to fly out on Thanksgiving Day to spend Thanksgiving weekend with my parents. And my Aunt Eva, a good family friend, had just purchased a house in Palmdale and Avondale. She's like, put $1,000 down and sit on it. So I sofa surfed. I stayed with my parents. I stayed with friends. When I got laid off, I started working for USAA up on the 101 and I-17. Every time I postponed my house for 6 months, they took another $5,000 off my house, which I'm like, okay, this is great. So when I finally moved in November of 2019, I had taken off $25,000 on my house. So $119,000 house is now like $85,000 house. I stayed in Phoenix for quite some time. When my mom got sick and when my mom passed away, my dad asked me to move home because he was super lonely during COVID. So I have it as a seller financing house. My roommate is now paying me monthly for that house. After my father passed away, I bought a condo downtown Phoenix, loved it. But do you know about the South Korean chip manufacturing plant being built in Cave Creek?
Yeah. Well, there's one in Green Creek, and then there's one up in just west of Cave Creek, I think.
Correct. Well, I went to Phoenix City Council meeting. The city of Phoenix is going to give the one in Cave Creek 6.5 billion gallons of water a day for the chip manufacturing plant. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I sold my condo. I still have my the seller financing house is almost over with. When my mom was sick here in North Carolina, I had bought a tax lien because I could travel here. And North Carolina has a very strange rule for real estate. It's called upset bids. You have to do it in person. But you're a real estate investor, aren't you?
I've done some, yeah.
So if you go to an auction and you win that auction for $10,000, you've won the house, right? Here in North Carolina, you need to know which county you're in, and you can walk in and put, you have 10 business days or 10 calendar days and put an extra $750 down and win that house. I came out for Christmas of 2021 and I won 3 properties in 2 weeks. And my brother's like, did you rob a bank? What did you do? And I'm like, I'm moving here. This is easy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was you just mentioned maybe your brother, but how many siblings did you have growing up? And like, it sounds like you moved around a bit. What was your parents, what was that like learning about how money worked and gaining that understanding or perspective?
I'm middle. I have an older brother and a younger brother. And I don't know about for your family, but we were always told, go to school, get a good job, you'll retire. My dad was a military officer. Thank God when my mom got sick, she was on a ventilator for 13 months in a hospital for 15 months. Everything was paid for, nothing out of pocket. True story, when my dad went to graduate school in Pittsburgh, I'm 5 years old. I found out about $10 for a lemonade stand. I told my mom I wanted to sell lemonade. We were living right next door to Three Rivers Stadium in townhouses, and my mom, this is back in 1972, so it was a bank book. She wrote down $10. The people in the townhouse wouldn't let me sell lemonade there. They said if they let me do it, everyone could start selling things. My next door neighbor was on the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jim Brown, not mean Jim Brown, but another Jim Brown. Huge man, 6'5", hands huge. I don't know if he told Mr. Rooney about it, but Mr. Rooney came to the townhouse, knocked on the door, but the school my brother went to, Mr. Rooney sponsored things, and he said to my mom, do you know who I am? My mom's like, I don't know who you are. He's like, you're the only person in Pittsburgh who does not know the Rooney family. He said, I heard about your daughter. I want her to sell lemonade after our spring practice this coming Saturday. My dad's in graduate school. My granddad's like, oh my God, I'll take her. My mom's like, you're going to pay him $5 for gas. You're going to pay your brother $5. And I, set up my table, doing everything. After I paid everybody off, I made $168 as a 5-year-old. My next door neighbor, he's going, buy some lemonade. People are handing me $20, $10, whatever, to buy lemonade. That next weekend, Hurricane Agnes was this crazy hurricane that came up the Ohio River and flooded everything. My lemonade stand was out in the shed. It melted. There's a commercial right now about somebody melting. I'm like, that was my lemonade stand. And my mom says to me, you made enough money. And I looked at her and she swears to God, she knew I was in trouble. I said, $168 is not enough, Mom. I'm going to make more. And from there, I think that's where my entrepreneur skills came from. I mean, they were put to sleep until I was 53 years old, but now I'm doing a whole lot.
Yeah, at what point do you feel like they got put to sleep? Like, 'cause that's 5 years old. At what age did you kind of settle into, I'm going to do what I was told, go get a good job, and just kind of work that way?
When I graduated from college, I worked for a great company in Washington, D.C., and then we all got downsized because everything went digital. So I went into the Peace Corps for 2 years in very eastern Poland. When I got there, I was 13 kilometers from what was Russia, and then it turned into Belarus. And long story, we purposely went mushroom picking to see how long it would take them to arrest us. They arrested us under 2 minutes. A crazy story. But after the Peace Corps, there were 101 of us in my group of Peace Corps volunteers, and I kept telling them, I'm taking the Trans-Siberian from Moscow to Beijing. Who wants to go with me? Nobody went with me. I took all the money for the Peace Corps and traveled for 9 months, had a fabulous time, came back and had to start paying off student loans and get a car, start doing things. So I think that's what.
How old were you on that trip?
When I got back, I was 27. And my birthday happened while I was on the trip. I mean, I spent 3 months in New Zealand. It was the most amazing trip.
I love how adventurous you are and how absolutely not scared of anything. Like, you're just going to go for it. How did your family respond to you kind of traipsing across Europe, essentially alone at that age?
I shouldn't tell this story. I thought I had more money in my bank account. I had a bunch of money in my American bank account. And when I went to go access it, my bank account was closed. And I had a family member who had taken the money out while I was in the Peace Corps. When my father found out about it, I didn't want to be my sibling because my father nearly killed him. But my father fronted me the money, so my brother paid the money back because I was going to use that money to pay for a ticket from Hong Kong to Auckland, New Zealand, and I didn't have the money. And I'm like, I have to get out of here. My visa is expiring tomorrow.
Interesting. So you were in contact still the entire time with your family?
This is 1993. That sounds funny, but we were doing, what do you call it? Not wires. Telegrams. Yeah, telegrams.
Telegraphs. Interesting. That's what I was wondering. Like, what was that like? I think it's crazy for me to consider, and just conditioning of the social system. It's crazy to think that I would even go to the store, go to Costco without my phone, like, and not be driving anywhere without the ability to be contacted. And that seems like a crazy thing to me. But when you think even back into my childhood, we did it all the time. It was like pagers or long distance. And that was my childhood. You know, when you go back to my mom was probably in Iran about that same time. And yeah, it's just like you're in this other world and you maybe have long distance calling, you have letters, but you don't have internet. You don't have any like instant form of communication. And any communication you do have is like super expensive. It's not a cheap form of communication.
Well, my cousin went to Romania with the Peace Corps, and she's got a computer, she's got a laptop, she goes back and forth. My first year in Poland, my group was a very large group. Paul, I forget his name, the man who owns Mrs. Fish Sticks, or Mrs. Paul's Fish Sticks, gave $1 million to the Peace Corps, and I was 112 people, I think was the 109th person, because they had no idea I was in country. That's a long story. But when we come back to Warsaw, there was a place to make, what do you call it? When you're in prison, you do the phone calls, they pay for it, not us.
I don't know.
I would do a phone call, would you accept the charges? And it was a row of 10 calls. And it was all the Peace Corps volunteers. I'm listening to their stories, telling my parents the same stories, but that happened once a quarter. I talked to my parents once a quarter at that time.
That's so wild. What exactly did you do in the Peace Corps? Like, what was the mission or the focus of the Peace Corps?
I was there to teach English as a second language to a lyceum. My students were going to go to like a trade school, or not to university. There's a very distinct difference in that. And then we had to do a side project. So I started the first ever project on the Nuritz River. I'm 13 miles from what was Russia that turned into Belarus. The Nuritz goes into the Bug, that goes into the Vistula, that goes into the Black Sea. So every month we did how fast the water was moving. We did how many people took the water from the Nuritz and things like this. 3 days before I left in 1993, a military base in Russia dumped, I don't know if it was acetone or what, but killed everything on the river. The fish, the grass, everything. I mean, we had officials from Norway and from Denmark, because it was affecting, it killed everything in the Nuritz River, everything in the Bug River, everything in the Vistula, and everything in the Black Sea. I mean, it just killed all fish, dead fish on top of the sea. And we were the only people with information about the river. And my students were like, I have to talk to them in English? I'm like, you have the knowledge. You can speak in English. And I don't mean to say this rudely now, but what's going on in Ukraine and hear how well people speak English at this point, that's amazing. Because when I was there, they didn't speak any English in 1991, 1993.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I was in Scotland and Ireland for 2 years, and you'd have people from all over the world come, from Africa, from Europe, from Asia, all over, and almost all of them could speak and communicate in English. And most of them didn't just know 1 or 2 languages. Most of them knew 5 or 6 languages. Like, they just grew up speaking lots of languages. And it kind of makes me feel like, maybe as an American, I just am so used to just living where I live. I don't have to learn any other language, because everybody around me for a while.
They'll learn the language, so I don't have to learn the language. Exactly.
Yeah, and which I think puts us at a disadvantage when you think of the brain power and what learning languages can do for your brain as far as a mental structuring. Because this kind of ties into what you gained professionally, but when you're a younger child at 5, you decide, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do this and I want more money. Well, then you get kind of conditioned out of that. And that can happen anywhere. You go sit somewhere long enough, you start learning the language of poverty. You start learning the language of just getting by. You start learning the language of just being, rather than excellence, rather than strife, rather than overcoming. And in that cycle is where we end up just staying rather than actually progressing in life. And then we see other people and they're just staying. So we think, this is what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to be like this. And I don't believe that. I believe that we should have a language of constant progression. But I can say for myself, it's been hard. I feel like my parents did a good job of teaching us that we could become whatever we wanted to. But there's a language of building. There's a language of inspiring. There's all these different languages that even though you hear it, unless you're engulfed in it and you're around people, like I think Trump is actually a phenomenal example of this. He speaks in a language of superlatives. Okay, like everything he says is an exaggeration, great, magnificent, the best, the great, and everything is exaggerated. But he speaks in superlatives, in the positive and in the negative. Oh, they're the worst, the world's worst, whatever, right? So he speaks in both. And that's a language pattern that actually can go a really long way. As we've seen, it can go all the way up to the presidency if you understand the language pattern and you can consistently use it. But it's hard to inspire people if you don't understand different language patterns and know how to employ them. And so when you get done, you get laid off, what job were you doing that you got laid off from?
I was the director of research at Monster.com, and I had a team of 5 people. Every 2 months, I lost another person. I was actually going on a 2-week vacation to Italy, 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of November, and I said to the senior vice president of Monster, I'm like, hey, I'm the last one. If I'm getting laid off, tell me. I'll stay in Europe. My mom's from Ireland, so I have dual citizenship. I can live anywhere in Europe. He's like, oh, no, Sally, we need you. You come back. We need you to come back. The Tuesday I got laid off, the vice president was there at 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, he's never there before 10 o'clock in the morning. I knew what was coming. So, yeah, so when I got laid off, I flew out for Thanksgiving. My dad's like, don't change your ticket, fly back, get your car, pack it up, and move out here. The first thing I did was to change my auto insurance, and my dad's military. So I called USAA, and the woman who answered, her name was Becky, and she's like, we're hiring. I'm like, I don't want to be an insurance agent. Who wants to do that? So I finally sell my condo. I get out there and I start working for USAA, and I didn't realize there was a $500 signing bonus if you brought somebody in, but I put her on my application that she referred me. During training, she comes down and she hands me $250 saying, you put me as a referral. I'm like, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me. I didn't realize she got $500 and she shared half of it with me, and we're still friends today from that. But
yeah, that's so cool.
I worked for USA for 13 years. I got recruited to work for State Farm as a night manager before they were on, Tempe Town Lake. We were over on Priest Road.
Yep.
And true story, I'm walking into work. I'm on the cell phone with HR because I'm about to fire my first person. 8 o'clock at night, there's a boulder in the middle of the sidewalk. I clipped it with my left foot, did a 360, landed on top of the boulder. L3 and L4 bulge to the right, L5 bulges to the left. I was on so much painkillers for 18 months, and State Farm's like, it's not work related. You work on a computer. I'm like, I'm on a cell phone with HR, and so I got laid off. I lost short-term disability, and I had to find a new job, and I became a Medicare broker, and did that for a year and a half.
So out of the jobs you've had up until you got really into the real estate side, because I know that that's more of your passion, but before that, what were the things that you did like about being a manager, or did like about the insurance world, or working for USAA or State Farm? Like, what were the things that you found joy and purpose in, even though it wasn't like the thing that woke up the little girl inside of Sally that said, hey, we were meant to be an entrepreneur. We were meant to play bigger. That got reawakened eventually. But what were the things that you were telling yourself that kind of just like made existing okay?
I got to talk to people all over the country. And one question I would always ask is, how much are you paying for gas? Because I always compared, hey, if you're in Indiana or something like that. And in an insurance world, when you're doing property and casualty, it's the same 22 questions over and over again. When you're in the Medicare world, it's the same questions, and then record this, record that. And while this is true, while the recording was going on, I'm reading different articles on the internet because I had when I was at USA, we did not have internet access. It sucked. But at Medicare, I could be reading something on Washington Post or wherever I wanted to go. So I could do a lot of different things while I was recording things.
That's cool. So you just had more maybe freedom to actually be keeping your mind active while you were still doing the monotony of the job. Correct. Title. Correct.
When you're not 65 yet, so you won't know this, but there's these recordings that are like 15 minutes long that the person has to listen to, and you're like, they knew we were twiddling our thumbs, so that's why they gave us full internet access. I mean, we couldn't go. There were certain sites that were banned, but I could go to WashingtonPost.com and play games if I wanted to.
So what are the things that you feel like you learned? So that's kind of what you like, but what did you learn that have helped you really, really make things possible moving forward? So you weren't really in real estate. You had years of experience gaining skills, reputation, knowledge, all these things that maybe at first glance you don't think are immediately transferable into a real estate or tax. I mean, now you're into the tax side as well. But what did you learn that ultimately has been really helpful as you transitioned?
I'm going to be honest. Somebody I met through my church, we went up to Flagstaff. I had met him and he's like, I'm a real estate investor. And I'm like, I've always wanted to do that. And from there, that's when things changed. And I went to a meeting in August of 2018, and I was very interested in doing this, but there was, you could join for $2,000 or for $20,000. And I'm like, I need to put things on hold because it's open enrollment. And when things fell apart in October of 2018, he was the first person I contacted.
So you get into this and you gained these relationships, you get into the real estate thing. What about real estate or real estate investing were you so excited about?
I personally had been doing notes in Maricopa County for several years. This sounds funny, but I read an article in high school about Arnold Schwarzenegger. When he came from Austria, he's a bricklayer in Los Angeles, and he started buying notes, and he was quite wealthy before he made.
Explain to the audience what a note is, because most people probably don't know, because now you're going to get into, and I'm going to allow you to, but I'm going to call you out on the things that most people won't know. Because when we get into the technical language, this is where a lot of real estate investors, they will go from, oh, this sounds fun. And then they'll go from instantly to that to talking way over what most people can translate into. And they lose people, not because they want to lose people. I can tell, and anybody watching Sally can tell, she's super excited. And the reason she wants to be here is to share this with you. But just as we started out, if she's speaking English and they're speaking Polish, there's no communication happening. Okay. And so this is the one thing, and why I'm so grateful you brought up the language. We need you to train on the language of real estate because it's a different language. And then we're going to transition from the language of real estate. And by the end of this, we're going to get into the language of taxes. And that's another conversation. They're all using quote unquote English, but they are different languages. Okay, the language of insurance. The words mean something different there, I promise you. The language of finances, the language of real estate, the language of lawyering or legal language, and then the language of taxes. They all mean something different. So when you're talking about notes, that's not a note on your phone, guys. That's not a notepad. It actually means something in a legal terminology, and in real estate, something specific. Go ahead, and I'm going to stop you when you say words that people don't know and say, hey, educate us on what that means.
And I misspoke. It was not a note. It was tax liens. So I started doing tax liens in Maricopa County because of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So how does a tax lien come about? Yeah.
A tax lien is when someone does not pay their county taxes. The county needs money to pay for the police officers, the fire department, the water things, everything else. In Arizona, you need 3 years. It doesn't have to be in a row. You could have, different 3 years. Then you can foreclose on the house. My whole goal for doing tax liens was you can do this all online now, anywhere in the country because of COVID. But my whole goal was I was investing in what's called Maryville. I don't know if you know that section of Phoenix. My parents actually bought a house in Maryville. It's about 45th Avenue. I don't mean to be rude about it, but very Hispanic. And what was happening was the grandma and grandfathers paid off house. People are like, woohoo, it's paid off, yay. But they didn't realize they still had to pay tax liens to the county or they could lose the house. So I was finding real estate investors who had the first 2 years and didn't get the third year. So I would pick up the third year, then contact the real estate investor saying, hey, you want this? You're going to pay me double for what it is. I loved it. I was doing very well with it. One of the things I did in 2014 on 75th Avenue and Happy Valley Road, I don't know what the mega church is called, but it was a mega church. And I got 7 different tax liens in my IRA for less than $1,000. And they haven't paid me off yet. The family figured out that I didn't get the third year. And every January 1st, it goes up another 16%. And I'm like, well, it's going to go back to my Roth IRA. This is going to be great.
So talk about there's two sides of this conversation, and one day maybe I'll have you on one side and I'll bring on the opposite. But for purposes of right now, I'm just going to play the devil's advocate. Some people would say that investing in tax liens, although it's legal and it's a legitimate way to earn money, there's definitely a group of people who feel that it's unethical and that the government shouldn't be charging us taxes anyways, and so they shouldn't have to do this, and they shouldn't be at risk of losing their house if the tax just because taxes aren't paid. So how do you square the ethical side of that?
True story. My mom, my grandfather died in Donegal, Ireland, December 1939. And his two sisters kicked my grandmother, my mom, and her two younger sisters out of the house. So my mom made me swear I would not foreclose on anybody. That changed, but my mom was very anti-foreclosing. So that's why I was going after the investor who had the two tax liens instead of trying to foreclose on the people who were going to lose their houses. I do think it's hard because if someone doesn't pay their taxes, there's more going on than just that. Usually there's more happening there, but I'm using public knowledge or public ways to get things. I'm okay. I can sleep at night, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Again, Sally, I'm not trying to attack. I'm just bringing up for purpose of conversation because there's whole groups of people.
My mom made me promise I wouldn't foreclose. And when she got out, came, true story, my mom's from Ireland. I was working as a Medicare broker and I didn't have to be at work till 10:30 in the morning. I walked in and it was raining outside in Phoenix and I opened up the window. I'm like, Mom, you love the smell of rain. And the first thing she said to me was, you cut your hair. And then the next thing she said to me, what happened to those fat asses in Ohio? Did you foreclose on them? I'm like, yes, I am. So yeah, that was her first question. So
she changed her tune after she felt as though she was being taken advantage of on the other side of it at some point.
She saw all the work I had to go through to foreclose on them. And it was an ongoing story for several before she got sick, and she's just like, you need to do something. Your money's tied up. You're trying to help them and your money's tied up.
So what is it? So this is kind of think where the conversation goes in two separate directions. If you think of like Section 2 or whatever I think of Section 2, where you go and you own or finance something, that would be more of like, hey, I'm actually trying to help you. I'm trying to provide a solution that you can't get out of your house. You're upside down in your house. How about I take over your mortgage and you sign the lease over to me? And then we're going to have this agreement where you're going to pay me rather than the bank, or I'm going to pay the bank, whatever that looks like, but just at a lower rate of interest. Some would say that's more, there's even people who don't like that. They think you're stealing people's equity, but let's just say that they're okay with that. At least you're performing a service and a net good because they're still getting either value out of their house or more value than they would have if they sold, or they're able to stay there and just not assume the risk of the mortgage. So that's one scenario. But what are you really doing to help somebody in a tax lien scenario? Like, how are you helping them? You're just putting yourself in the middle to make money. You're not really helping them in a tax lien situation.
Right now, my tax liens I deal with are raw land in Florida. Here in North Carolina, tax liens go into what I was talking about earlier about upset bids, where they get called on the step and that starts a 10-day process. Also, foreclosures get done that way. I got a tax lien here in North Carolina for less than $3,000. One daughter lives in Charlotte and one daughter lives in Rock Hill, South Carolina. How can you not pay $3,000 for a house that your mom lived in? She unfortunately passed away. I got it for less than $3,000. I put a handyman in there, 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. He painted it. He did certain things. I sold it for $243,000. That to me, the adult daughters didn't do what they needed to do, and I made a heck of a lot of money off of it. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
So here's a second question. In a scenario like that, did the adult daughters really know that they even owed the tax liens? Or were they completely unaware? Their mother dies. They're trying to figure out the rest of their life. That's the tax liens are like maybe not the number one thing on their list of concerns, but they would have rather sold the house themselves rather than have it just be taken over by you and then you sell it.
The county that I live in, Monroe County, which is next to Mecklenburg County, sent them letters, and then when I won the upset bid, they sent them another letter saying this person won the upset bid. You have 30 days to pay her off if you want to. And it was sent to both addresses. And I'm like, I never heard from them.
So how how certain are you that they actually got, like, does it go registered mail, or is it just like, we delivered it to the box, but we don't know if they even live there anymore? And the reason I ask is I get mail all the time from the people who lived here before me. It's been 3 years and I still get mail. So if some record in Nebraska says, hey, their family died and they're going to start messaging me, I'm not opening somebody else's mail. I wouldn't even know where to forward it to. And so, it just sits there. So how confident are you that they actually get the information and actually are aware that they're in a tax lien situation?
Union County sent a registered letter, and I used Fast People Search just to make sure on this. The mother passed away. This was 2023. The mother passed away in 2007. So this tax lien was sitting out there, accruing more and more interest rates on it. And I don't know who was living in the house when I won the upset bid, but the sheriff had to kick them out. And I hear it was a family member, maybe a cousin, maybe a son. I don't know. But they were living there rent-free, if that makes sense.
And I appreciate you allowing me to ask all these questions. I promise they're not antagonistic. I really want to understand this process. And I know, and I know there's people who feel a certain way about it. And so I'm just trying to identify, like, where's the heart in the process? Where's the rightness or the, hey, we're actually doing somebody a service by this? Because you're not really going in saying, hey, you need to surrender your house. If you don't say that, then the government's going to keep doing it to them anyways. So all you're doing, if I'm understanding properly, is you're just expediting the process of what was inevitably going to happen regardless.
Correct. So Monroe County, where I live, needed this money that wasn't paid. And, personally, I think Monroe County needs to fill the potholes that kill my car instead of buying a police officer or a firefighter. But, it's, how do I say this? It's the good of the county. I'm sorry, the family couldn't figure this out. They were sent a certified letter saying this is how much you have to pay to stop this tax lien being sold, and they did nothing about it.
And it was, from what you're saying, it's a relatively low amount that's owed. It's not like they owe tens and 20s of thousands of dollars. It's an amount that theoretically anybody in America could probably put on a credit card if they wanted to.
I was going to say, even if they couldn't put it on one credit card, one sister does one credit card and the other sister does another credit card. And to find out there was a family member living in the house, because notices are being sent to the house too, saying this is now in the clerk of the court of Union County. This is the tax lien has been bought. I don't know what the family was thinking. I hate to say it. If you can't afford $3,000 for a tax lien, maybe you shouldn't have a house. That sounds really cruel on my part, but it wasn't that much.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm asking all these questions, because I'm deeply curious how they're receiving it. And I'd love to communicate with somebody who had their house taken through tax lien, because right now there's a whole thing you hear advertisements for it, that people are doing fraud through taking somebody's home title and switching it over. And so there's all these different ways that, like, maybe I get letters in the mail and I think, I'm going to ignore that. I don't even know if that's real, rather than actually like, oh, maybe I should call somebody and find out if it's real. And then to find out all of a sudden one day, oh man, I just got booted from my house. And what's the legal recourse to that? It's a fascinating gray area, I think, to say the least.
It's a fascinating gray area, and I hate to say this, there's responsibility when you buy a house. Or I've been the executor on 4 different estates: my parents' estate, my uncle Paul's estate, his mom's estate, and his brother's estate. And there's a lot of paperwork to go through, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to follow through with things. My Denny's house Mama San's house on Rock Hill in San Francisco, beautiful area. I mean, it was a paid off house. I had to find a real estate agent. We had to put it up and then put things in the paper saying she has passed away. How are we going to do this? That house went for several $1 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then this whole journey through real estate, from when you started in 2018, like the idea of real estate, to where we are right now. So it's been about 7 years. What was your first big realization that, like, wow, this is going to be my future? I could see myself making some significant income for our family doing this way?
I was invited to a Christmas potluck party, and I met my mentor, Jay Tannenbaum, there. His entire thing was back in 2008 when there was a whole meltdown, especially in Phoenix. Bank of America bought, I want to say it was Home Store or something. All the mortgages got messed up. So his thing was getting bank-owned houses. This is now the notes. Getting the bank-owned houses really at a discount and then wholesaling them. So as an example, one of the houses I got here in statehood, North Carolina, it was a dump, but it's got public sewage, it's got public lighting, everything else, but it's all boarded up, and it was a crack house. I got it for less than $7,000. I wholesaled it to a handyman. He's like, I can pay you $32,000 for it. I'm like, done deal. And it was his first investment property. That's how he's making really good money in 2019.
And not that you fully know this, but you sell the house for $32,000. After he fixes it up, how much would roughly he have to put into that, and what would that sell for if it was all fixed up?
He kept it as a rental. I know that. It was the comps. It was the whole neighborhood was the same 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. So the comps were about $150,000. But this house was boarded up, weeds everywhere. The bank had owned it for 9 years, and the bank's like, they needed it off their books. So I bought the bank-owned property, and then I wholesaled it to the 2-story. I'm in Phoenix. And what Jay taught us was call a local real estate agent to see if they can help. So my first call to the first real estate agent, she wanted nothing to do with me. Second call I make to a real estate agent, she's like, I've got 3 handymen who probably want to look at this. She gave me their name and number. First guy's like, I'm super busy. Second guy's like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Let me go look in the windows. He's like, I'll pay you this amount of money. He didn't know what I bought it for. And I'm like, I'll have all the paperwork drawn up and sent to you legally by FedEx and everything. So then you make like $23,000 on that house, and that was your first transaction? That was my second transaction that year. Another one I got, a bank-owned property I got, was in Norwood, Connecticut. 6-unit, it was a huge house made into 6 apartment buildings. I got it from the bank for $110,000. And so I didn't have to pay for it because I did the wholesale deal before the money was due. I got it for $110,000 and I sold it for $1.8 million. And the guy who bought it's like, you can't get apartments in Norwood like this. So yeah, I made a hell of a lot of money on that one.
That's so fun. So you do this, and these are the little tiny experiences where you're starting to realize, okay, I could make this a bigger part of my life. But as you mentioned, maybe you start earning 20, 30, 40, 100, 200, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this. And then you have other problems. Yes. So talk to us about some of the other problems that you started to experience along the way.
In 2019, I wholesaled 7 properties nationwide. I made $184,000 in profit. Or I paid off $184,000, my mortgage, my 2 car loans, because a guy ran a red light and T-boned me on my way to work. Had no insurance. I was upside down on my loan. I had paid off everything. Had $50,000 in my bank account because I knew about capital gains. April 4th, 2020, my CPA calls me to say, congratulations, your tax bracket went from 22% to 24%. You owe $94,000 in short-term capital gains. Remember, April, COVID started on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. 3 of my properties nationwide did not pay me. I'm completely, the real estate just completely shut down at that point. And I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? Do you know a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy?
Yep.
Love that book. Go out to Scottsdale, sign the paperwork to get on a payment plan, get my parking validated, go down to the parking garage. I cried for 20 minutes going, where am I going to get $24,000? It's the middle of COVID. Everything's shut down. Scottsdale's east of Phoenix. I have to drive back to my condo in Phoenix in the sunset, tears running down my eye. Next morning when I wake up, I'm like, I read an article about the Rockefeller Spendthrift Trust. It's called The Office. Let me research that article. I was sick of the roller coaster going up and down, up and down. I'm making great money. I'm paying so much in taxes. I've got a good job. This is another funny story. I was on a special call campaign as a Medicare broker the month of November for Cigna in Texas. I call this woman, and it's when you start Medicare, her birthday was August, so she's got 3 months before August and 3 months after August to start her first Medicare program. We're trying to get her on Cigna. I call her back saying, hey, you got to start before the end of November. Has anything changed? She's like, I moved 4 miles. Put her new address in. She moved from Texas into New Mexico. I'm licensed in New Mexico. There's no Cigna. I tell her what it is, and I send a message to my manager saying I had to quote her something new. He comes over to me and goes, did you issue? I'm like, no, she's got to think things over. My manager, what used to be a football player, 6'6", 350 pounds, huge guy. She calls me back November 28th, and she goes, I want this policy. Let's go ahead and issue. So I send another message to my manager, going, I'm issuing the policy. I'm licensed in New Mexico. I can do this. He comes over and he's standing there with his arms crossed while the recordings are going and everything else. Finish the call and everything else. He goes, you're fired. I'm like, for what? He goes, you were supposed to sell Cigna. I'm like, she's not in Texas anymore. She's in New Mexico. He goes, you're fired. I'm like, okay. He's like, you're okay. I'm like, I'm selling a house at the end of the month. And I'm going to make $80,000 on it. I don't need this damn job anymore. I was going to be there for another 4 months to get more money, to get everything situated. But it was it was so good. I was relieved. I didn't have to work 8 hours doing a job I didn't like anymore.
Yeah, I think sometimes the gift is in what seems like a negative thing when somebody has to transition. Sometimes we think we need to hang on to something a lot longer than we need to. And sometimes other people end up making the decision, like the universe. I think it's the universe that helps other people make decisions for us, because like, hey, for whatever reason, you're hanging on to this and you need to let it go and you're preparing yourself to let it go, but you need to actually take that step and move past it. So I think that's awesome that was kind of the changing thing inside of that. With the taxes, you hear about the spendthrift trust, but where did you gain most of your education around it?
There's a gentleman in my real estate group named Garrett Gunderson. He had written a book called What the Rockefellers Do. I actually had the paperback copy, the signed paperback copy, because I bought it at something he was doing. I used every single name he had in the book and Googled them and started calling people. In late August, I called a law firm in Texas and they said, we don't do this. I'm like, okay, fine. Everything is pointing to your direction, but they told me they didn't do it. The next day, I get a call from California. I don't know about you, Sam, but I don't pick up calls I don't know. So I pick up this call and it's a representative from the law firm saying, what are you interested in doing? I have 3 online businesses that pay me $1099 income, and I do real estate. And so we had a conversation. I start both my business and my beneficial spendthrift trust. The business trust is for business owners, entrepreneurs, and 1099 income earners. If you're making at least $80,000 a year, you could be saving 90% on at least 90% on your federal taxes and no longer pay state income taxes. The beneficial trust is for U.S. investors. You'll no longer pay taxes on profits. So I'm doing the paperwork together, and I said to Richard, I'm in a real estate group here. I would like to teach other real estate investors how to save taxes. And he's like, oh, become an affiliate of mine. I'm like, okay. I start working with the gentleman who ran the real estate group. I'm just using first name, Zach. He's my mentor. He's my friend. And now he's my business partner. For 18 months, I do a mastermind Thursday nights at 6 o'clock, and I get 14 other real estate investors into the trust so they can start saving money. I'm in North Carolina for Christmas 2021. I just wholesaled 3 properties, and my brother thinks I robbed a bank. He's like, where are you getting all this money? And I'm like, I'm doing this legal. And I check my bank account, and there's not enough money in my bank account. So I send a simple text to Zach, say, hey, I thought we had a 50-50 agreement. I saw your post on Facebook. Where's the rest of my money? Next day, we get on a scheduled Zoom, and I'd never seen this person before. He shows up, and he is angry. I mean, first, he's calling me a liar. He's calling me a thief. He's telling me he can't trust me. He's saying that he's going to put my mastermind on hold for 6 weeks. And I'm like, Zach, I don't know what you're upset about. You're the one who lied, not me. But I'm like, I'm not a human yo-yo. I won't do that. And he goes, then you're out of the real estate group. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't ready for that. I mean, he cut off his nose in spite of his face. Mm-hmm. So do you know who Bob Proctor is?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a student of thinking into results. My coach, Susan Ma, she's actually in London. I text her and I'm like, Susan, I just lost my mastermind. I just lost a friend. I just lost a mentor. I'm more mad than anything else. His last words to me was, "You'll be nobody without me." I'm like, who the hell are you to say that to me? You know, I'm the one that brought you. He bought the trust from me and he's saving tons of money and he's saying that to me. So Susan's like, we'll talk 7:00 tomorrow morning if that's too early for you. I'm like, no, that's okay. Get on the Zoom. And Susan's like, you need to move. You need to start your own company and you need to find a new real estate group. And I'm like, Susan, ask me to lose 10 pounds. That's a whole lot easier. But I did everything she told me to do. I started my company March of 2022 and I'm saving people thousands of dollars. A gentleman, I just sold a trust this morning. We're going to save him and his wife over $82,000. Her dental practice in Chicago is going into the trust. It's going to be an amazing thing.
That's awesome. So how do people typically respond when they first hear like, hey, you could save all this and not pay any in taxes? What's people's most common response or concerns about it?
They think I'm lying. They're like, you're full of it. I have CPAs who tell their clients this is not true. And I'm like, it's in the IRS tax code 643B. It's been in front of the United States Supreme Court on 2 separate occasions. I purposely work for a law firm that a Harvard law professor wrote the 5 separate trusts. In 77 years, not a single trust has been audited. Only one trust, has been examined by a senior IRS agent. And the law firm is so confident in what they do. It's now the grandson and great-grandson who run the law firm. They're so confident in what they do. They send you a certification saying if you get questioned by the IRS, they'll defend you free of charge. It's happened once in 77 years.
Yeah, so when people first hear, okay, it's probably a scam, there's no way that that's real. Can you go back into the history of where these started, why they started, and most people, I think, are just not educated. And it's kind of sad because not just our country, but our world, I think, like every time our world goes through a new cycle, we'll just call it a cycle, like we don't know what happened or how the pyramids got there. There's a cycle that happened in that transition where that knowledge is no longer on this planet, or at least the people who have it aren't sharing it. We don't know how it got there. And it's just this big mystery. And rather than trying to find out, we all just said, okay, well, it's here, I guess. And we just moved on with our life. Well, there's things that happen in society where we see whole systems change and everybody almost just forgets what happened before. When that often happens through the educational system, the next generation of people just aren't taught certain things. And so then they are doomed to repeat it. But what were some of the things that we've lost through our education as far as who created this, why they were created? And they used to be more, I don't know if I would say they were ever common, but at least everybody knew what was going on. And now it's more of a remembering aspect.
True story of this, if I have the year wrong, please forgive me, I'm dyslexic. 1534, King Henry VIII started the Church of England. Famous king who chopped off a few women's heads, like, hey, let me start the church and allow divorce. Murder a few ladies, start a church. He goes to tax the lords and ladies of England. They go further back to the 13th century to the Magna Carta and said, no, King Henry VIII, you can't do this. It's contract law that came from England to the colonies while we were still part of England. The law firm I work on behalf of inherited a trust that turned 350 years old in 2023, older than the country. Our current tax code that we're under went into effect February of 1913, and the super rich baron families, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Carnegies, the Kennedys of 1913 made sure they can save taxes. It's tax code 643B. Again. So
did they put it into the tax code? Like, who was the author of that section of the tax code, would you say?
I'm going to be honest, I don't know. It's in the tax code. Again, going back to Paul Benson, he was a Harvard law professor. He studied this. There's over 1 million attorneys in the United States right now. Only 4% are trust attorneys. A textbook that trust attorneys study is Scott and Asher on Trust, 5th edition. He wrote these 5 separate trusts. There's the business trust, the beneficial trust, a senior trust if you're over 65 and making too much money, it affects your Part B of Medicare, a charitable trust, and then I've only sold one mineral rights trust. One of my real estate investors inherited his granddad's horse farm in Oklahoma with 4 with 6 oil wells on it. So he had to get one of those. It's just, I'm not trying to crow. I haven't done my 2024 taxes yet, so bad Sally. But in 2023 and 2022, I personally saved 92% of my federal taxes on my 3 companies and didn't pay North Carolina. So I paid 8% federal taxes and did not pay North Carolina state income taxes. It's an amazing thing. Since having this trust, I started in September of 2020. I've wholesaled 28 properties. I have 12 notes where I'm the paper on the house. People pay me their mortgage. We were talking about that earlier, where I got mixed up. Every time I buy a note, I tell them I'm the new sheriff in town. Don't screw up. You'll stay in your house. I have 3 rentals. I have 3 seller financing houses that I'm winning in these upset bids. I own a crypto bot. I don't pay any taxes on it at all. And it's an amazing thing. The more money I save, the more I put into real estate.
Do you think that there's or is there any concern of yours? Sometimes people get concerned that the secrets of the wealthy, they're secrets for a reason. Okay. And they don't, although they're there and although they're legal, the powers that be don't really want everybody using them. And so do you think that there is any concern if you were to make this more public and really share more and more of this information? Do you think that they would ever have a problem with you and maybe come after you and try and break it up just because you're being so vocal about it?
I'm not concerned. 3 ways a trust saves you. It saves you taxes year after year, generation after generation. Number 2, your information is completely private. And number 3, all lawsuits become frivolous. So they can come after me, but there's nothing that I think I have $7 in my wallet right now, but that's all they would get. The IRS does not like the tax code. They wrote an opinion letter September 11th, 2018. They literally say they don't like tax code 643B and they don't like the irrevocable, complex, discretionary, non-grantor spendthrift trust. The IRS has put out...
Say that one again, Sally, 6 times fast. That whole string of what you just said. That trust that they don't like.
Irrevocable, which means it goes from generation to generation. The Rockefeller's trust is 7 generations old. My trust is right now 3 generations old because it's new. Irrevocable, complex. This trust can hold money day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, decade to decade, century to century. 97% of the trusts sold every year are what my mom and dad had, what Susie Orman talks about in television, the family trust or the living trust. There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing the family trust does is avoid probate and then dissolves. This is not your mom and dad's trust. Irrevocable, complex, discretionary. Whoever is the trustee or trustees can make the rules for all the beneficiaries. This is a true story. A husband and wife have 4 apartment buildings in Los Angeles. They didn't burn down or anything, but their adult daughter has a problem. They're allowing her to live in one of the apartments rent-free, but she has to do 4 random drug tests per month. She actually took her parents to federal court and sued them. The judge looks over everything and he's like, you have 2 options. Pass the drug test and stay rent-free, or move out and start paying rent on where you live. I don't ever want to be invited to the Thanksgiving dinner. That's just wrong. So irrevocable, complex, discretionary, non-grantor. When my mom and dad started their family trust, my mom and dad were both the grantors of the trust. My mom passed away first, then my dad passed away. It dissolved after this. With this trust, you can't have a beneficiary or a trustee be the grantor. You'll have somebody else. I'm telling you about the dentist that I sold the trust to this morning. I'm going to be their grantor. There's 2 pieces of paperwork. I'm going to say, yes, I know they're setting up the trust. And then the second piece of paperwork, I sign myself away. It makes the trust completely private. And then the 5th element, irrevocable, complex, discretionary, non-grantor, spendthrift trust, has been in front of the United States Supreme Court on 2 separate occasions, and both times the Supreme Court has favored it. It's an amazing document, but the IRS doesn't like it. So when they wrote this opinion letter, September 11th, 2018, they've written 3 more memorandums on it. I'm not trying to make fun of CPAs, but I have got more pushback from CPAs than any other group of people. And they keep telling their clients, look at this memorandum or look at this thing. And I'm like, an opinion letter. I don't know about you, Sam, but I have thousands of opinions that mean nothing. And only Congress can change the tax code. So I'm not concerned about it. The only thing Congress is doing right now is increasing taxes. It was passed in September of 2021. 2 major bills went through Congress. One was a transportation bill. The second was a catch-all bill. line 21 and 22 says if you make more than $300,000 a year, your capital gains will be either 40% short-term or long-term on any profits. It hasn't been signed into law yet, but it's sitting there waiting to be signed into law. And that's only going to help me sell more trusts.
I like it. So let's go back to one thing at grantor versus non-grantor. Why is it important that it's a non-grantor trust? Like, define what a grantor is in the legal context and who has the authority to grant a trust and who doesn't. And why would you want a non-grantor trust versus a grantor trust?
Great question. Grantor trust means the person, whoever is setting up the trust, like my mom and dad set up their, I'm going to be honest, the trust was the Gimmon Family Trust, real original. They set up the Gimmon Family Trust. Both my mom and dad were the grantors, and then when both of them passed away, it dissolved. With this trust, to make it 100% private, you're going to have someone who's not a member of the trust, a trustee or a beneficiary. They can't ever be a beneficiary, that they are going to sign up for the trust and then sign themselves away. The couple I'm talking about this morning, they have 3 young kids under the age of 18. He wants to use his brother-in-law or her brother. And I said, I don't think that's a good idea. What if you want to make them beneficiaries, be part of it? He goes, who else would I use? I'm like, if you need me, I can do this for you. I've done it for many other clients.
So is being a is it primarily a privacy thing, or is it that they can never be part of the trust if they are the grantor?
Both. It's a privacy thing. The trust is going to be set up like they're in Chicago. So the trust is going to be there, but it's going to be listed in Texas where the law firm is. And it's going to be listed that if I'm their grantor, that Sally Gimmon granted this trust. They don't know I've signed myself away from the trust. I don't know what they'll put into it. I don't know how they'll use it. It's their personal trust.
So what's the ongoing maintenance of something like that? Is there ongoing costs? Obviously, there's an upfront cost to get it organized, but what's the ongoing maintenance cost of a trust like that?
When you start the trust, you're going to get a new EIN number or employee identification number, your tax ID, in a letter to open up a new bank account. You're going to get a PDF copy. You're also going to get what the trust looks like from somebody who works at the law firm. You have to confirm it's correct. If you decide after you've confirmed it's correct there's something wrong, there is a $300 charge to change things because it's put on parchment paper. You will file a 1041 tax return that's only allowed for trusts. Personally, when I did my 2019 taxes, I had 6 LLCs, 6 different properties in those LLCs. I had to do a K1 by March 15th and then put it into my 1040 tax return by April 15th. My taxes were more expensive then than filing 2 different 1041 taxes because I have a business trust and a beneficial trust. I'm old-fashioned. I do everything on an Excel spreadsheet. The couple I talked to this morning, they've had cooking books that's easy to transfer to the CPA who knows how to file a 1041 tax return.
That's awesome. So what else would somebody need to know if they wanted to get a hold of you, get in touch with you, to just find out if they're a right fit or if it's a good option for them right now? Maybe they want to start planning for the future and start building towards having it be a right option for them. What does that look like from your perspective?
My website, www.thetrustisyou.com, has a 23-minute presentation that someone can watch on their own. Watch it there on the website or have it downloaded. I have a free class on the Great Discovery. Do you know about the Great Discovery yet?
No, I don't think I've heard of that.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Six Sigma, the consulting group?
I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
I want to say it's 3M, but it's a consulting situation. It's a new platform that just started back almost a year ago now, that it's going to be worldwide. I have my class in English. If somebody wants to listen, this actually happened. One of my clients whose first language is Mandarin, I listened to the class in Mandarin Chinese and then set up an appointment with me because they understood it. So it's my class can be translated to 166 different languages. I don't have to worry about that. That's what the platform does. When you go out to that free class, my first name, my last name, you're going to get a 23-minute presentation. You get 3 articles from Forbes magazine, I Did Not Write, that talks about the trust. You're going to get 2 pages of case law so you can research this to your heart's content. And then you're going to get examples of clients saving money with the business trust and clients saving money with the beneficial trust. One of my first clients, he Do you know how to do the BRRRR strategy? I don't know what everything stands for. The BR, buy, rehab, refinance, redo.
Oh, no, I don't.
Well, true story. Michael's in Texas. For 3 years, he kept going to his CPA saying, why am I paying so much money in taxes? And the CPA kept saying, you've got too many houses. When he first contacted me, he was a referral. He had 85 houses in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that he was doing this BRRRR strategy. It took him a few weeks because he had to change the title on each house from his LLC to the trust name. He was doing 10 per week. In 2023, we saved him $135,000 in interest income taxes. What he did with that money was he bought 7 more houses to put into his empire. He's making more money, and then he keeps recycling it. And he's told so many more real estate investors. I have an affiliate program. He keeps telling real estate investors about me, gets paid $1,000 when they buy a trust, and he loves it. Absolutely loves it.
That's awesome. So if they just go to sallygimmon.com, www.sallygimon.com, any one of those, and then also go follow her on social media. Where do they find you on social media?
Having an odd last name. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on, TikTok. I'm Spendthrift Trust. I've got 20 followers there, 20,000 followers there. I do have a Sally Gimmon TikTok thing that I only do the business trust. I'm on Instagram. I'm trying to do all this. I'm boring. It's the same thing over and over again, but people watch it all the time.
Well, thankfully on social media, the same video doesn't get shown over and over again. Generally, it's a slightly different video.
I'm kicking myself because it's cold here today. I only have 2 sweaters, so I wore a red sweater. And yesterday when I did my videos, I had a red shirt on. I'm like, oh boy, 2 days in a row with something red. So bad, Sally.
Hey, it's all good. Well, we're going to get you some great content out there, but I just am grateful that this knowledge is being shared and people have the information around it. If you are curious if it's a good fit for you, or if you are curious if like pricing, whatever, just reach out to her. I mean, it doesn't hurt to find out. The more information and the more education you have, the better equipped you are to actually prepare yourself for your legacy, because legacy is not all about money. Just like the example she shared of the family who wants to make sure that their kids are living a certain lifestyle and they get restricted if they don't live a certain lifestyle. You can control a lot more from beyond the grave than you think if you do it properly. And if you say, look, here's the guidelines in which we're willing to allow our income and our generation and everything that we create in this life to be passed on to the next life and the next generation, you can control that if you do it properly. If you do it the simple way, as she just said, like in the family trust, it's going to be dissolved once the death happens. And that's just kind of how life is. But if you can create something that's going to be multi-generational, the idea of the Fuel Your Legacy podcast is not just about, in fact, I would say it's very little about the financial aspect of a legacy, and more importantly, about what type of habits, mindsets, and behaviors are you actually passing down generation to generation. And the Spendthrift Trust allows you to control more elements of your life multi-generationally, and creating the habits and the mindsets and behaviors and making sure and ensuring that those get taught and propagated down the chain, rather than just, hey, you did it. I don't know what the numbers is. I think it's like 90% of millionaires are first generation millionaires. And pretty soon that's going to be 90% of billionaires are first generation billionaires. They didn't get there. Like they weren't passed down the wealth. They got there by getting there themselves, which means they have the ability and the potential to be the one, as Ed Milet says, to change that that family's life forever. But if all they do is make a bunch of money and then they have children who don't learn the skills to keep that money, keeping and propagating that through the next multiple generations, then it was all for naught. You know, they say most of the wealth is spent within 3 generations of somebody becoming wealthy because it wasn't taught. The mentalities and systems were not passed down multi-generationally. So that's what these trusts allow you to do, is have that control and have that intention over generations. So please reach out to Sally, sallygimon.com, and just find out. I mean, if nothing else, she's one of the most excited persons I know to talk about it. She's got tons of energy. I think that's a better word. She has lots of energy for things that she's passionate about. She doesn't need your money. She doesn't need any part of that, but man, she loves and she gets a kick out of helping somebody save money. She just loves helping. You know, she doesn't need to, but she wants to because she loves it. And so reach out to her. It's super simple. And then, yeah, I'm just super grateful. Again, any final words for the team here?
First off, I was in a bad place. I mean, when I decided to become a real estate investor, I didn't know it was going to change my life only for the better. And I invited a very good friend of mine in Phoenix. When I was out there 2 weekends ago, we went to dinner, and she's just like, "You're so lucky." I'm like, "I'm not lucky. Just do something." I used to invite her to Wednesday night meetings, and she's like, "There's good television." I'm like, DVR it. It's repeats. And she never, ever took advantage of things. There's so many different ways to make money. Start doing online videos for digital marketing. Just do it. Nike says it's the easiest way. Just do it.
Yep. Absolutely, 100%. So with that being said, we will catch you next time on the Fuel Your Legacy show. I would invite you to go on to either Amazon Music or iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this. Throw a review in there. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Also, follow us on YouTube where you can engage in the conversation, view the actual video of the conversation. And then if you have any desire to share this out with other people, we'd love that. And again, we'll catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy show.
Call now, don't hesitate. 385-323-2493. Change your fate. A legacy in motion, watch it grow.